Welcome to the State of Audio, How to Hear Above the Noise. We have a fabulous panel lined up for you today so that we can hear more about audio from many different perspectives, buyers, sellers, and we would love to hear from you as well as an audience. So with that, just a couple things. You will be able to watch this on demand. You can also have people in your company watch it on demand. We will send the link after the webinar. Please ask questions throughout the panel. We have questions obviously for our panelists, but we would love to know what you want to hear about. So please do ask questions using the shape icon found at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You will see Q&A, and that's where you ask your questions. You can upvote others as well. So we will take some questions at the end for our panelists. And then we do have a feedback form as well, which of course we value your feedback very much. So without further ado, let's just get right into the panel. I want to introduce our moderator, Kathy, who is a partner inventory commercialization lead for EMEA. Kathy, I will let you introduce yourself and then we will go into the panelists.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And it's great to see so many of you here, including our amazing panelists who will introduce themselves in a moment as well. So yeah, I look after programs that drive promotion, packaging, and discoverability across EMEA. So basically to make a connection between our supply and demand. And of course, audio has been an emerging channel, top of mind for many buyers and publishers alike. And this is a great one for us to dive into today. So before we unpack the state of audio and discuss how to make the most of this thriving channel, first, let's also take a moment and have an intro for our dear panelists. So I'll hand it over straight to Bettika.
Hi everyone, I'm Bettika from the Trade Desk, the Senior Manager of Inventory Partnerships based in London, where I essentially look after our SSP and publisher relationships across Europe with a focus on our audio partners.
Perfect. And
I'll go. Hi everyone, I'm Charlotte Taylor. Good morning. I'm Head of Publishing and Audio at Spark Foundry and look after the audio investment for all of our clients at Spark and working with Publicis Media. So it's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hello everyone. My name is Jubran Abdul Khalik. I have 14 years of experience in digital media overall. I currently work at Anghami on the advertising business as a head of commercial, and our responsibilities are the ads revenue, product, overall product, and marketing to create demand.
perfect. Thank you, you three, for taking the time, for being here, and being open to our questions, also from the audience. So as mentioned, if anything comes up, please feel free to add it in the Q&A tool. But firstly, let's take a moment and reflect on the trends that are impacting audio advertising today. We are very curious to hear your thoughts, and we're gonna give it a go with Charlotte. So Charlotte, as a leading agency, what consumption trends are shaping audio into an increasingly programmatic advertising channel as well today?
Cool. First up, so I think if we take a look back, so I guess pre-digital acceleration in audio, so back then radio, simply, we only really used it to drive reach during key breakfast and drive time slots. It was a reach driving platform. These days are long gone. So what the pandemic really taught some, but proved to many, is that audio has an audience that is loyal like no other. So without dwelling on the pandemic too much, but audio really connected people to the outside world. And this was crucial during this time. It did this with massive success due to the various access points, which are available whether you're choosing to listen via music streaming apps, podcasts, online radio stations, digital broadcasts from more traditional AM or FM radio stations. These points of difference open up huge targeting capabilities and creative options that we never had before. And based on this, we can target our audience on where and how they're listening. This in itself makes audio a completely different experience to what you're going to get from any other media. I think the main thing on why it's so different and it's accelerated hugely is because it's a completely screenless experience, which makes a massive, massive impact. So if you think about it, being able to consume content without a screen, we can catch people whether they're commuting, doing chores around the house, catching a flight if you're lucky enough, and no other programmatic ad format can reliably do that with this kind of scale. So that also means that if you look at audio ad formats, they tend to follow users from device to device. So podcasts are a great example of this. So a typical long hour-long podcast might be split up between you listening on your phone, on your commute. It might be split up by you listening on a pair of home smart speakers, in the car. And what these multiple listening formats do is they translate to multiple opportunities for people to hear your message and for targeting. So that is something that, as an agency and buyers, that we really have to focus on.
Yeah, so we already see, it's a very complex journey that users go through there. And as you mentioned, right, there's been a lot of increase, especially in the last 2 years. Yeah. But let's maybe take a look at the other side. So we heard a little bit of the user consumption, advertising perspective. Now, tuning over to Jubran, and for you as a publisher, where does audio actually fit into your larger monetization strategy?
So thank you, Kathy, and thank you for having us on this exciting webinar/panel. So as you know, we're a music streaming app. Audio is at the core of what we do, everything we do. So our monetization strategy is based around audio, and audio is not only as in audio ads. Audio can be also in the content we produce or the experiences in terms of concerts, right? So we do have a nice 360 approach, one-stop shop to not only have audio ads on app, but we also augment with live video, for example, on the app, or we augment with different experiences that we create, the songs that we create for advertisers. And this is proving very, if you want, beneficial for us, because later on, I think we're going to talk about the hurdles of audio. But for the time being, we do media in terms of audio monetization. We do content in terms of audio monetization. We do experiences in terms of audio monetization. Another thing I want to bring up is programmatic is our next evolution. We are on programmatic. You can find us on the Trade Desk or on DV360 on both DSPs. But with having the next, if you want, big evolution for us is that we have now split between internal inventory and external inventory, which is programmatic. Now, hopefully in the next couple of months, we're going to be moving to pure programmatic in terms of you can buy programmatic audio ads for Anghami through both DSPs, but even in our internal audio Anghami Ads Manager, we're going to integrate programmatic fully with us in order to be a biddable model. The market is still in a how can I say it, in an old way of buying audio in some places. Sometimes not everything is available in the MENA region. So this is for us here, it's more MENA than EMEA. But hopefully, once we do that, it will have a positive effect in terms of the buyers, of how they buy, and the planners, how they plan. And over and above all of this, data is something that we've been gathering for the last 10 years on our users. We have a data project that's going on. We have over the last 10 years that we almost have 98 million users registered on the app. And this is, why is it important? Because we don't only now are going to do audio advertising, but we can even, and we've already integrated with the Trade Desk and with DV360 on both of them, in pushing our audiences, these segmented audiences, and we found a huge portion of them through the device IDs that we have, be it IDFA or be it Google ID. And what happens there is that we have audio advertising, we have content advertising, we have experiences, and now we have audience extension. So having this, if you want, full funnel approach from awareness down to conversion, I think it's going to even make audio advertising even more powerful, because audio is not only what you're listening to, it's because it's also for us the data that we've captured and how we can give proper targeting to advertisers to have better campaigns, right? So it's all about how you can have a better campaign, reach your KPIs, and this is what usually buyers and I think planners are looking to do. And at the same time, have some fun with it, right? Why not have some fun with some content that you can create or experiences?
Perfect. That makes a lot of sense, and I love that you touched media, content, and experience bit. So now tuning over to another side and perspective that we have here from a DSP, Vitika, what trends is the trade desk actually observing in terms of buying patterns around audio? And when you work with your clients, how are you positioning the benefits really in the media and the marketing mix? Percentage group.
I think following on from what Charlotte said, one of the biggest trends we've seen at the trade desk is the rise in solo streamers, making the most of kind of tailored entertainment services. A recent survey that we did found that over a quarter of Brits are now streaming more music on their commute via streaming services. And these solo streamers are starting to be considered by our buyers on a more of an individual basis, where our clients are serving personalized ads at the best possible moment, like Charlotte said, before they're streaming, tuning into their daily podcast, or after they're finished listening to their current favorite album. It's an opportunity to kind of reach users at the right time with the right message that is pivotal. What's also invaluable for our buyers, I guess, is the ability to kind of get real-time insights from listeners as individuals, as well as kind of tweak campaigns at the same time. And I think one thing we're also seeing is buyers using omnichannel strategies. With the trade desk being an omnichannel DSP, using audio programmatically means they're able to kind of slot audio right into their programmatic omnichannel mix alongside other channels such as display or CTV. Advertisers have the ability to kind of really take a holistic view of their campaigns and, like I said, obtain smart insights which consider the other channels rather than just kind of looking at audio in isolation. I think we're also seeing buyers be more creative in the ads that they're serving, kind of by utilizing dynamic creatives and data. They're able to ensure that they're really reaching the right audience in the right environment. And I think in terms of buying patterns, I'd say in the world kind of programmatic guaranteed is also still a big element in audio buying. We're obviously seeing programmatic guaranteed being used as a transition from direct IO into the world of programmatic, but I think we're starting to see an increased desire from some of our buyers to move from PG to a more biddable way of buying in order to be able to kind of fully utilize the full benefits of programmatic.
Yeah, wow. So once again, so many perspectives coming out here and so many nuances. So it sounds like, this is something like for real-time insights, for example, but of course, every advertiser would love to know more about their users they try to reach. But maybe even question over to you, Jubra, and also Charlotte, if you want to chime in. What types of advertisers have you seen being most interested in audio today, whether it's booking or inquiries? Can we observe any trends there?
Sorry, just removing the mute. So specifically for advertisers, I think we have different industries that are interested in different things, right? For example, we have the crypto industry, just for example, that are interested in podcasts, while the FMCG industry is interested in a mix of content and audio ads. And when you have the auto industry, and I think this is Bitika touched upon it about the commuters, right? auto industry, it's something big for them. Audio, it's because what we have, for example, at Alami, what we're trying to push, a big push for us, and this was recently done by VW, is car mode. So car mode is a very important aspect, and car mode, you get ads on car mode, right? We have around, in Saudi alone, because I'm currently in Saudi now, just for business, we have around 60 million streams per month only in Saudi by using car mode. This is a very big number. It's not a small number, and this is a country where, if you want, that music was not available, or it was not sought after because of the restrictions. Now it's being lifted, and you're seeing much bigger responses from this part of the world. I think here it's a very virgin market, but if you can see that FMCG, in terms of the Unilevers and P&Gs, they go after audio. On a F&B level, we have Pepsi, that is a big advertiser with us, and I think they're big on content also, which actually helps us drive more audio. So audio here in the region is a bit still in the virgin territory. So we need to create experiences in order to drive more audio. If you want, like for you advertisers to take on more audio. And I think our next big push, which I was talking about, the data push of organizing our data. This is the first time we've organized our data in the last 10 years. And I think telco is our next big push, and we're having very advanced conversations with different big telco partners in the region here to have data partnerships, right? So what does a telco look for? It looks for, it wants to gobble up data, and it wants to target the users or their consumers, right? Or B2B or B2C in a proper way. They're always looking for the next approach, especially with Gen Zs, right? It's always hard to target them properly. We have this first party data that can actually let them target properly on programmatic and internally with our ad suite. So I think between FMCG, F&B, auto, and telco, I think those are the four major industries that we're tackling audio with and growing the pie in the region, because it's all about growing the pie. The pie is still small, and I think all of us collectively, when we grow the pie, at least I'm talking about a publisher standpoint, it will let the publishers and DSPs and agencies create more, if you want, demand on that front.
Cool. Just, I guess, to add from an agency point of view, what we're seeing. So what the growth of digital audio has done, and done brilliantly actually, has brought more categories of brands to the audio space. So what we're seeing is obviously a lot of brands and advertisers for years have just been focusing on visuals, having, brilliant and beautiful display and video assets. And there's been, many that have never really had a voice or an ad format. And if you think about particularly the luxury space, for instance, it's really important to have all these, amazing visuals. But what we've started to see with some of our luxury clients is them now play in the audio space when traditionally they wouldn't have. And being quite honest, radio is not the right environment for those brands. So, for instance, if you look at podcasts, we have clients that has been their entry point into the audio market, and they've reaped the benefits of what podcasts can give them. I mean, it's got massive scale now. I think it's something like 21 million listeners in the UK at the moment, and I think some crazy number by 2025 that's going to be around 27 mil. So that's like huge scale in a pretty premium environment for these types of advertisers. So yeah, we're seeing growth from sectors and industries that traditionally we wouldn't have seen in audio, which is awesome, and hopefully that continues.
Yeah, definitely. +1 for podcasts growing. I mean, personally, many of us also as consumers can attest to that. And I love what you mentioned. Sonic branding is also a challenge for users and buyers. So that's definitely interesting in this emerging area. So knowing that this audio landscape is quite complex, right? We touched even, smart devices, car mode, podcasts, solo streamers. Vitika, we're wondering, how does the Trade Desk simplify this offering to develop media buying strategies with their clients? So really from let's say an inventory commercialization perspective also, how do you go to market there?
I think I guess all inventory ecosystems are quite complex, right? Display, video, in browser or app, connected TV, digital out of home. And I think the role of programmatic is partly to kind of remove that complexity. Like many buyers in kind of browser have huge approved inventory lists, and audio is definitely much more simpler than that. I think just in terms of, I guess, the amount of like key publishers that exist, it's definitely much smaller than probably some of the other channels, and there are a lot more kind of premium publishers. Buyers have the capability to kind of reach multiple audio publishers spanning across all different devices and players, all through one or a few deal IDs. So I really think programmatic actually just makes it a hell of a lot more simpler for our buyers, and it gives the opportunity for our buyers to be able to reach audiences at scale in a very, very simplified manner.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And then, so when your clients are trying, let's say they're tapping into audio and it's really new to them, oftentimes they of course want to first discover what inventory is out there. So also for all the publishers using Google Ad Manager tuning in today, we're really curious also how can we really best showcase those inventory opportunities to you? What has helped you push this channel forward?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of our role on like the role of my team at the Trade Desk, it all starts with information sharing and education, like by giving insight into our teams and agencies into the inventory that's available. They kind of come to us to act as consultants, so we have to kind of, I guess, gather and have that knowledge available to be able to share that with our clients. We're also seeing more of, I guess, an outside-in approach where, for example, buyers in APAC are buying across EMEA, and they don't necessarily know who the key players are in the market or who to reach out to. So it's really our job to educate whilst also relying on kind of our SSPs and our publishers to be able to share that knowledge with us for us to then be able to pass that along. So I think having a very simplified overview of exactly the inventory a publisher has to offer, which kind of includes things like scale, station size, device breakdown, access points, makes things much easier and opens up more opportunities. I really think collateral and simplified, easy to access deals are pivotal. I think the other key element is seller setup being quite consistent, like seeing the same signals where possible across all the inventory and device types makes, in kind of from our side, the buyer's role easier, as they can compare kind of like with like, they can measure performance and value of each source and make educated decisions. So I think the key things are just information sharing in a very simplified manner and kind of seller setup being consistent.
Yes, definitely. And great to hear you reinforcing that message. So also for any publishers listening in, we're definitely working on different inventory programs, whether it's overviews to help the Trade Desk buy or always on deals, for instance. So reach out to your Google Account Manager if you're interested. Having touched on the complexity, which is being simplified by programmatic, Charlotte, from an agency standpoint, again, how are you dealing with these challenges? And what's maybe one top challenge you're hearing from buyers that we could help solve from different standpoints?
I think Bithika's done a brilliant job of capturing a lot of the challenges. I think the big one for us is that all major audio publishers have their own buying platform, which can make it really complex for our buyers. But working with the likes of the Trade Desk, really what we've experienced really helps pull this together. But it can still be like overly complex on the supplier side. So working with the DSPs definitely makes it simpler, but I think there is probably more work to be done, if I'm being completely honest. I know you said one challenge, but I've got two, sorry. Another challenge that we have is challenge and an opportunity is that there are so many innovations in this space which are brilliant, and long may that continue. But what we need from our partners on these innovations is greater insights. So, like, why should we be planning across these new innovative platforms or formats? What are they going to bring to the table? Whilst we're super keen on driving innovations, winning awards, doing best in class work, and that will always remain, but we cannot forget a lot of what we do in the audio space often has to revert back to return on investment, ROI, for our clients, which is always going to be important and is always going to be there. So it's getting that balance for us between innovation, because we absolutely should be doing it, but also ensuring that our audio has scale and quality audiences, because that's what's needed. So yeah, it's getting that balance between the innovation and scale and results.
If I may jump in, Charlotte, you're absolutely right. I think publishers should do more in terms of giving you insights. And this is what now Anghami is actually stepping up to the plate and doing. So we've streamlined it into 3 different areas: identify, create, and distribute. On the identify level, I think this is something that we can help agencies with. You come to us with a brief, for example, you want to validate, right? There's a lot of validation that's not happening currently. Mm-hmm. And this validation cannot happen through normal means. It has to be done through data. And who better else than a publisher to actually come and say, this is, whatever brief is or whatever question you have. We can say, for example, K-pop, just for example, in Saudi is something that's big, but in UAE it's not for females, for example. And an agency can come up to us and say, I want to do a K-pop activation in UAE, and we tell them, no, it's not the right place to do it. You have to do it in Saudi or KSA. I think this is something that once we identify these audiences for agencies or for the buyers, it's important to create campaigns accordingly, because if you just don't listen to the data is, for me, it's all about data. Data is pure truth, right? So if you don't listen to the data and you create something that's off plan, to your point, performance or KPIs are not going to be hit. So once you get that, creating that campaign from either from yourself or from the creative agency or whoever it is, you distribute properly, and you distribute as per the data, what's telling you in terms of that right target audience.
Yeah, thank you, Jubran, for jumping in. Actually, on these challenges of the approach, this 3-pronged approach that you mentioned that you're taking there. So in relation to selling audio inventory, maybe to split it out a little bit even further, what are the kind of challenges or opportunities that you're seeing there, on the one hand from like a commercial demand perspective, like what you're hearing from a market, but also on the other side from the technology or product perspective? Is there anything more to share there from publisher view?
Yes. So on a publisher view, from our side, there are a lot of obstacles. I think the main commercial obstacle for clients that that I've seen at least is that there's no real framework to buy audio, right? There's a framework for display. There's a framework for video. There's a huge framework for video. Video is the default, right? Go-to for most advertisers. It's a visual audio. For me, it's visual chaos, but speaking in from a music streaming app. But I think frameworks are very important, and this is something that we've been building out with clients, with particular clients on an industry level, right? So I'll just give you a small example. FMCG in the US, FMCG in UK, FMCG in MENA is all the same. They look for the same, if you want, approaches or KPIs or and so on. So they have 3 main things that at least I've identified. I'm sure there's much more, but these are the 3 main things. It's cost-effective reach. That's the first thing. It's custom audiences. That's the second thing. And it's viewability or brand safety. That's the third thing. That's an example purely on the FMCG level. We've done this for multiple other industries, also for auto industry, for the banking industry, and so on and so forth. So this is this type of challenge that we have, that there's no framework or approach. So on the cost-effective reach, for example, we usually have 15-second ads on Anghami, but once we looked at it, we said, why not introduce a 6-second ad? We want to make it as apples to apples as video, also in a lot of places, to make it simpler for advertisers to digest. A 6-second ad is the same thing as a bumper ad on YouTube, for example. It's something very easy to digest, and it's something that strikes, what I don't know how to say, like strikes a chord with advertisers. The second part of, I think, the question is creating demand, is education. There's a lot of education that still has to be done in terms of on the audio side. So if I ask anyone here, what is audio made of, right? What is audio made of? It's very simple, but what happens is that they just sometimes when you don't understand something, so video from in the beginning, when they didn't understand it, there was so much research that was put out by Google, that was put out by the trade desk, that was put by agencies by itself, like the amount of research that they've done internally. So audio is three main things. It's voice, which is the tonality. It's the background, which is the mood, and it is the content, which is the actual message. So these are the three main, if you want, aspects of audio. And just to give a quick cheat sheet, if you want, about audio and the education of audio and how it makes it simpler for advertisers or agencies. Also, it's still also, Charlotte is an audio expert, but it doesn't trickle down to all of the team. And this is something that I've seen also here in the region, about being an expert in audio, being comfortable to speak audio to a client. So the three main things are being in harmony, be concise with your message. You have to be straight to the point. You can't be all over the place in your message, because we have the user's ear, right? And you can't speak too much. You have to be very concise. You have to be very, very clear of what you're saying, and you have to be relevant to the user in terms of how to target that user in the proper way. And I think the last thing is be a storyteller. We tend to actually, I tend to, this revelation, to move into data, if you want, and the science of things. But there's a different aspect to it about how you tell your story on audio. So if it's 15 seconds, your story is going to be different than 6 seconds. If it's 20 seconds, it's going to be much different also. And how you can, and also the sequential targeting of those audience ads, of the audio ads, and taking that same user the first day, setting him up with a different ad, or setting her up with a different ad in the second day, and the third ad on the fifth day, maybe, depending on the different optimizations that we need to do. But I think that creating these frameworks will facilitate, I think, the adoption of audio as a whole in the region. And I think that I don't know if there's any creative agencies are here, but I think that creative agencies also need to be part of the conversation. They need to think audio first, and I think this is I think it's a perfect setup with Charlotte and Publicis, where Publicis Group has everything, right? So they have consultancy, they have creative agencies, they have media agencies, and I think the whole power of one. Sorry, I'm ex Publicist, so I'm just gonna
go for it. I love it.
So the power of one approach, I think, should be utilized even more on audio, and to proliferate audio, and to make the pie a bit bigger.
Thank you so much for sharing these insights, Gibran. So as we wrap up and also move to the Q&A section, one last two-way question for everyone, and we'll start with Butika. So on the one hand, looking ahead, whatever innovations you might see revolutionizing the space, but also, this today's all under the name the state of audio. So if you would summarize the key takeaway for the audience in one sentence on what to do with audio today, that would be great. And then we move to Charlotte in Japan.
Cool. I mean, I think there are so many untapped opportunities with audio. I feel like we're only just touching the surface or scratching the surface at the moment. Like, I'm excited to see where we can take audio. I do feel like Jubrana said, there's definitely a lot more we could be doing in the now with just the basics and with creativity. But I think looking forward, for me, I believe podcasts are huge and will continue to grow in this space. But I think it'll be great to kind of, I guess, have the ability to be able to insert live programmatic ads into downloaded podcasts. So almost like dynamic ad insertion within downloaded content, I believe would drive revenue from our clients. I also think maybe the potential to use kind of podcast presenters to record versions of an ad programmatically that gets dynamically inserted into podcasts. So almost like dynamic variations of ads, that will be a great kind of innovation and step forward. And I think just we're also starting to see more merging of channels more and more, where we're kind of seeing audio available within in-gaming environments. So this whole concept of the metaverse. So there could potentially, I believe, be more opportunity to serve audio within different channels and devices. But again, I feel like there's definitely lots and lots of opportunities, but I'd love to see, I guess, more being done with what we already have available in regards to data, utilizing insights and utilizing the tools that are available within DSPs and what publishers have to offer, and our buyers really kind of utilizing that to be able to get the most out of their audio campaigns as well as their omnichannel campaigns.
Oh, shall I give it a stab? From a agency point of view, and I guess my own personal point of view, I would say greater interactivity. So let's look at, for example, voice commerce. This is a massively exciting shift in the audio advertising space, with the move away from a traditional frequency buy to a targeted actionable buy, which we haven't had before. If you look at smart speakers, for instance, these are really interesting because they're a voice-first platform, and how, as an advertiser, you should interact on these platforms needs to be thought of, I think, slightly differently to how you're, potentially placing ads within streaming services, etc. The reason I speak about home speakers is because I think that we've barely scratched the surface on what we can do in voice interactivity in this space. There's real scale here. We know that 1 in 3 UK households owns a smart speaker. And I just think it's understanding what we can do and how we can do it, I think will be a huge innovation to revolutionise the space. And then Bithika touched on it, but I think gaming is a really cool aspect of interactivity for audio. We're seeing some brilliant startups come to market in gaming, specifically within audio. So the likes of the guys over at Audio Mob, they're doing some really great stuff, and they can offer, a non-intrusive ad format in comparison to display or video. I mean, I'm not a gamer, but you often see people that are gamers, and they're, you're playing your game and boom, a display ad pops up. It's probably quite annoying, and a video ad, whereas audio is in your ear. So, and I think it's the perfect environment for interactivity. So I think that'd be really, really cool.
From our side, I think there's a lot of innovation that's coming. Dynamic ads hasn't been touched upon properly. Immersive audio ads has not been touched upon properly. And to Charlotte's point around voice commands at home, we recently, a couple of months ago, integrated completely with Alexa here in the region. So the default music app for Alexa here in the MENA region is Anghami. This is big. It's not a small, just like Charlotte was saying and Bithika was saying, they're not, it's a massive opportunity, right? It's still maybe I think in the infancy stage of people using it, at least here in MENA, but I think it's something that we need to touch upon for the future. Another big, I think, thing that we will need to do is to define music within metaverse. It's not really defined. I think this is a collective decision or definition that we need to do. And once you define how music or how audio is in the metaverse, I think that we need to redefine the opportunities. It's not the same opportunities, right? I think it's going to be a bit different approach. We've all watched, I think, Minority Report, and how it's not the metaverse per se, but it's a la metaverse. And I think that visual is key, but just to go back to old cinema, so visual in cinema in the old days, I think was, and there used to be like subtitles, if I'm not mistaken, at the bottom. And then when voice or when audio came out, it just revolutionized it. So I think we just need to set standards collectively. This is all a collective decision that we need to do, right? It's not only a publisher, it's a DSP. It's because DSPs are going to be properly programmed into the metaverse. They're on CTV, and why not go into metaverse in terms of DSP or programmatic buying there? I think there's something that everyone is looking at, but no one's talking about in terms of the metaverse programmatic approach, be it on billboards or be it on audio or be it on display or be it on whatever. For us, I think that those are the major innovations. Another big innovation, I think, is creating content on the metaverse, especially concerts, right? We're a music streaming app, but at the same time, we do create content and experiences. And we will, hopefully, you will be seeing more and more of this in the future about not the basic pre-recorded concert, put it on the metaverse, but it's proper avatars. And we have key partners that we're going to work with to actually get this done. It's a very exciting time overall in terms of, I think, audio. And I think the podcast is something that is super, we've barely scratched the surface on that and how the data can be used in order to make it better experiences in terms of ads for users.
Thanks, Gibran. Thanks to all our panelists and also to Kathy as our wonderful moderator. We have a couple questions and then we will end the session. I just want to also let you know that Raquel posted the feedback link. I want to mention that in the feedback survey, there is the opportunity to request a report on enabling audio ads in your video inventory, which will help you estimate the size of your audio opportunity. What you'll need to do is, if you are a publisher, put in your network ID code and we can generate that report for you and get it sent over when it's done. So a couple questions. I will start with the one that's in the Q&A tool, and this one is for Charlotte from Tara Mendelson. Charlotte, what is most important for your clients? PG offers inventory guarantees and reassurance for clients with limited programmatic decisioning. How can we work to educate both media partners and clients to move into a world where they take full advantage of the programmatic capabilities?
Thanks for that, Tara. I would say, I'm glad you actually mentioned this, because I think we could be doing more work together on this space in pushing people more, especially audio, more programmatically. I think there is a huge growth opportunity for partners and DSPs to focus on clients where audio doesn't usually form part of their media mix. If I'm being completely honest, I spoke about this earlier. We're still seeing, many clients that don't have a brand, that don't have a voice, where they naturally focus on brilliant visual assets, but having a voice is equally as important. If you haven't got an audio ad format, you're really missing out. And I think another huge opportunity, especially in the programmatic space, where I think we could be doing more of, and would also accelerate growth is, what often happens in the digital space is you might have a video asset that is planned and bought by an AV team in an agency. You might have a display asset that's planned by a display team. There's not, it very often doesn't come out of one buyer. So what can often happen is that all of these channels are planned in their silos and often aren't brought together. And we know that audio is a brilliant facilitator in doing that. So we've done some brilliant work already with the trade desk on that, but I think we could do more on joining up the dots, especially in our implementational planning of digital ad formats in the programmatic space. Yeah, hope that helps. Does that answer the question? It was a very long question. You're on mute, Caitlin.
Thank you. Sorry, I literally was just telling Tara if feel free to come off mute if you have any follow-ups. And I'm on mute. Okay, I will ask. There's one more question, Charlotte, also directed at you. The majority of digital digital audio content we sell is made up of true crime podcasts and daily news, which comes with a lot of sensitive content. For example, the Ukraine conflict. Some training desks are deeming this as non-brand safe content. Do you agree?
Oof, big question. I think it really depends on the advertiser and the brand, to be honest. I think what needs to be looked at is the context and sentiment targeting within these, because this is obviously where a lot of the reach is, right? And you could be discussing, a relatively positive news story about, say, for instance, a family in the UK putting up a family from Ukraine. That's not a negative piece of news, is it? And it's not something that you would necessarily say, oh, I don't want to be against. So I think it's all about the context and the sentiment. But personally, I wouldn't deem it all as non-brand safe, no.
Thanks again, Charlotte. I'll leave it open just for another minute. If people have questions, feel free to put it in the chat, the Q&A tool. If not, we'll leave it here. Okay. We will leave it here. Thank you so much again for joining. This will be, the recording will be up on the website, and we will send it also as a follow-up. Feel free to watch anytime, forward internally, etc. Thank you again to our moderator, Kathy, and our panelists for joining us, and have a wonderful Wednesday afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good day.